Hey church family, if you've been watching the news these past several days, you've most likely seen excerpts from some of the multiple memorial services that have been held for George Floyd. There was a service in Minneapolis where he was killed. There was a service in North Carolina where he was born. There was a service in Houston where he was raised and lived most of his life. These multi-day, multi-city services are just one indication of the significance of Mr. Floyd's life and his horrific death. Demonstrators have marched through streets or gathered at U.S. embassies in Canada, the United Kingdom, Germany, and New Zealand. George Floyd's brutal death on Memorial Day has sparked a national and international protest against racial prejudice and injustice. The hope is that as enormous and long-standing as these problems are, the hope is that somehow genuine change and healing can take place as we move forward. That's my prayer, and I hope it's yours as well. In thinking about that, I was reminded of how difficult it is to try and understand what you don't understand. What I mean by that is simply this. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over by a police officer and searched, questioned, or otherwise harassed without just cause. I can read stories about it. I can try and empathize with those who've experienced it or live in fear of it every day of their lives. But the reality is, I can't truly understand something that I've never experienced. In the same way, I don't know what it's like to be a part of a police department where a coworker was shot, making what seemed like a routine stop, or was otherwise injured while trying to keep the peace. I can listen, and I can try to understand, but I've simply never experienced that. And while neither experience would justify sinful and prejudicial action toward another person, maybe just understanding the degree to which we can't understand where others are coming from can give us the necessary empathy and self-awareness to try and find a better path forward than the one we've been on to this point. Ultimately, it's not a sin to lack understanding, but it becomes a sin if we're content to continue living in ignorance when that ignorance facilitates the discrimination and degradation of other people's lives. God has called us to so much more. It's been 2 weeks since George Floyd was killed, and the protests, the difficult conversations, and the calls for real change don't seem to be going away anytime soon. And I, for one, hope that they don't. But the way I look at things, I think we have two choices. The first is to wait and hope that eventually things will get back to normal. The second is to take an honest look around and accept the fact that maybe normal probably isn't worth getting back to. God has called us to love others with the same self-sacrificial empathy, compassion, and concern that Jesus Christ displayed for all of those who crossed his path. If that's something that doesn't come easily for you, will you at least join me in praying that God would grow those character qualities of Christ in you and me? I'll make that commitment to pray for you. I hope you'll make that same commitment to pray for me.